So we had a great time in the Dominican Republic. What a week. I got to see a lot of old friends and also got to make some new friends. We saw a lot of baseball, a lot of great baseball, and we took a lot of pictures. Woo! So now it's time for post-production. So capturing the athlete at his or her peak moment. Now, what is that peak moment and how do we edit? Right after a shoot, even if I'm on my, especially actually if I'm on my way to another shoot, I like to offload my images and get them onto my computer. For me, it's also just a safety thing first and foremost, and I hate wasting time. So my edit starts right away in the car, probably 5 minutes after the shoot. And I really like it that way because it just happened. I know the moments. I mean, I'm gonna know the moments that night or the next day also. I'll sit in the back and I start to edit. And you know, it's interesting because I shot with both the A1 and I shot with the A9 III. Side by side, and of course with the A9 III, the amount of images you're taking. I mean, you're already taking bursts of 30 at times, and now in this case, you know, could be bursts of up to 120 images. And it really got me thinking about the edit because I think we were saying the A9 III, everybody's going to start shooting in a different way, and there is some truth to that. And you know, as I looked at the images later and really had a closer look, I mean, the autofocus on the A9 III is very special. The AI function of autofocus is definitely a difference maker, and shooting side by side really gave me just an appreciation that I didn't have before. And then the speed, and I was thinking about the speed, and you know, we get used to, we say 30 frames per second, why do I need more than 30 frames per second? And to me, it's kind of like the dial-up when you have like the internet, right? You start off and you had this like dial-up internet and you're like, wow, I can connect to the internet. How fast is that? And then you get the next thing and that's not fast enough and then it's considered slow. And you just, that speed and how fast the A9 III worked, like as I delve into it, it's kind of like you're not gonna want to go back. You're gonna want that speed, and then when you don't have it, you're gonna miss it. So, as much as, yeah, we might be shooting a different way, we're certainly editing now a different way. And your edit is going to be, the way you edit is going to become more important because you can't, you know, you can do whatever you want. You can keep 3,000 images. But to me, I've never been afraid to take my 3,000 images and bring it down to 100 images in the back seat of the car. And I do it fast and I'm done. And that takes time and that takes practice. You certainly don't want to delete something that you're going to regret later. But I have like a 1-2 system, 1 star, 2 stars. So everything else gets thrown away. They're pixels. You can't be afraid to throw the other images away. You're not going to keep 3,000. And that's what I mean by your editing different. If you're going to take 3,000 pictures in a shoot, why shouldn't you? Go ahead. You have the space on your card, you have the room, you have the capacity, the camera have the capacity, but then you also have to be willing to throw the images away and keep the images that you need for your project. So it becomes more important to be able to let go of pixels. They're just pixels. Keep the good ones and get good at what those good ones are. So I'll go through and maybe my star 2s might be for immediate that I'm sending, or perhaps I'm posting them right away on social media. So there might be the special ones that I pick out for some particular reason, and then the rest are going to be for archives. So let's go into one of the other folders, the game action folders. So we had 2 days of women's games, and this is kind of fun. Okay, so after we do our selects, we have 73 images left. I'm going through, for me in this particular case, you know, this is a book project, so only 1 image from my burst is going to make it in there. I may keep others for my archives, but let's just use an example of this play here. So the player slides in to second base, and I've got a burst, and I kept 6 images out of the burst. And I'm going through, you know, just a simple play. This player slid in to second base, she was out, the second baseman is running off the field. But it's still a great moment because it'll be a picture that I would consider for my book just because of the dust and the background and the light. So just looking at it, I've got this burst. These are my favorites. It was 6 out of, say, the 30 that I took. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So which one am I going to choose out of this for my book project, or for maybe a post or something that I was going to send if I was sending to my editor and I was shooting for La Vida Baseball? Well, here is an early moment, so you'd consider, okay, the dust is flying, her helmet just came off, her legs are in the air, but my final is going to be actually the last of this one. And why am I choosing this out of the burst? Well, it's all about what is the best image out of these? What is the peak moment? And for this is the best image and it's the peak moment. Why? Because her legs are still up in the air, but the helmet is flying a lot more. It's a more dynamic picture, and most importantly, I can also see part of her face, which is important for me for the picture. So that's my choice out of that. And so it's just getting used to what is the peak moment, right? If it's action, what is the peak action? Are the legs off the ground? Is it the most athletic stance? Is the ball in the air? So all the things you're looking for, that athlete needs to be at his or her peak moment. And what does that look like? So one of our days in the Dominican Republic we spent at the Oakland A's Academy, which was an absolute blast. I got to see my friend Veronica Alvarez, who is in charge of international player development, and that was great to see a woman in that position in the Oakland A's. There was a pitcher who was demonstrating, he just made it into the minors, so very exciting for these guys at the academy. So they had the entire academy watching this pitcher. So I got to shoot the pitcher, and I spent time shooting first wide angle using a telephoto lens. I started with a wide angle right next to him. I had nice access and made some pictures with this beautiful sky. And I took my bursts, and this is what's left of my bursts. Obviously there was a burst of him pitching, but I don't need all of those. I just need peak moments. And when I was done with that, I moved around. Okay, I went a little tighter. I shot with my 70 to 200, making a few tight shots of him at the same angle. And then what else is happening besides him pitching? Well, the coaches are watching and they're evaluating him and they're having a look. So capturing Veronica and one of her fellow coaches watching. I'm back to him. Now a different angle, so I'm shooting a different angle with a telephoto lens. Now I get them watching and I get my picture, telling the story in a different way. Here's the peak moment for there, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go there. It's very easy to know what the peak moment is. The ball just coming right out of his hand. And that's what you can do very easily when you have 120 frames per second. Usually you don't need a second chance. And then it's also to tell the story, it's more than just the pitcher. So here are all the players watching and observing him pitch. That's also part of the story. And then afterwards, his coach congratulating him and that moment. So it's what can you do to tell the story? The action, the reaction. I feel like editing is the most important part of becoming a better photographer. For me, it was the hardest part of photography is what is, a great sports picture, right? And if it's action, it is the peak moment. And setting standards, I think, really for yourself, has a lot to do with it, and not being afraid to throw something away if it doesn't meet your standards. I think it's the hardest thing. Like you work so hard and you say, but I did all this and the background's not right and something happened with your background, or it's, the ball is just a little bit out of the frame, or, it's just not in focus the way it should be. I think it's really important to be able to let those go, because as an editor, you're only as good of a photographer as your weakest picture in your portfolio. So getting rid of those weak pictures and throwing them away, makes you a stronger photographer, and setting standards makes you a stronger photographer. So being able to say, okay, this is a miss for me, and where that goes, and that changed for me over time, of course. You're just so excited to capture the action, but then you set a standard for yourself that moves up the chain as time goes on. All right, so let's take this batter for this particular picture. Okay, so I have ball on bat, so you could say that is peak moment. And it very well could be peak moment depending on what I'm looking for. But as I look through this series, and I kept 5 in this series, or did I keep 4? I have 4 in this series. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Okay, I'm gonna pull full screen for a second. There's 1. Okay, I love that because the bat on ball is always great to capture and also easier to capture when you're shooting at 120 frames per second. So I threw most of these away, and this is what I kept. I like her face, her form. She certainly looks athletic. 2, great. 3. Okay, why is that so much better? Her face here, her face there. This, to me, is the moment. That, wow. Okay, now I have a problem. Do we like this or this? So what do I like about this? The bat up in the air, she's watching the ball, but also the catcher is watching the ball, right? Her legs, her athletic, she's going to start to run. There, she's starting to take her run. I like the bat better in that one. Her face may be a little bit better in here. This, and that's it for that. So those are my 4. Now, depending on what else I'm doing for my project, maybe I have enough ball on bat, so I don't need another ball on bat. So I like the after one for this, but this one's out for me. Her face is not it, and she just hit it. Ah, okay. Yes, yes. I think I'm gonna go that one. Even though I like the bat better, her face there is so good. The catcher is watching, she's watching, and you can see the smile on her face. She's really happy with what she just did. So to me, there's the peak moment for this. And of course, it's personal too. And it could very well be that if you're just looking for the sports picture. All right, let's go one more. And then because I'm shooting for a book, or even if I wasn't shooting for a book, I'm just telling a story, it's just more about the action. Where are we? What is the scene setters for this? It's grassroots baseball. So I want to do more than just show action. And I want to also change my scale up. I use different focal lengths while I was shooting with this. I was shooting with a 300, and I was shooting with a wide 16 to 35 and also a 12 to 24. So I want to be able to show some of the details, have a scene setter, maybe a few portraits. So going through the whole shoot, okay, where are we? So just this scene setter, just a nice wide, shot this with a 12 to 24. Okay, just to give us a sense of place of where we are. Now, this is not a beautiful stadium, but that's kind of the whole point, right? Baseball can be played anywhere. This is grassroots baseball. So look at this field with their billboards and their broken fence, and they're playing baseball. So a scene setter is really important. And then details. It might just be pretty light on a batting cage, an old batting cage. Can be fun. I have lots of these. I'm going to pick just one for my book. I think it's going to probably be that one. And then changing up the scale, so a few portraits. Again, this was shot with a 50, but it makes it fun, changes up the scale, and it's also part of the story. So maybe only one of these or 2 of these will make it into the book. But I already did the edit. I probably took 15 images each of these women before they started their. But I chose this one. Why? It's portrait, so it's all about the face. And then details. Whether it's maybe prepping a field, a glove that's sitting on the field, okay, also giving us a sense of place. It has a Dominican Republic flag on it. And the details should be shot just like everything else, like with care, and what is my background, and do I have pretty light? If you're going to shoot a scene setter, or you're going to shoot details, it's all about taking the time to create a picture, not just, oh, I'm going to get a detail, I'm going to shoot a glove and run away. No, what is the composition that you want? What is the light? What is the angle? Can you put your camera on the ground and make a picture? Same thing with my scene setter. I'm waiting for a moment. I didn't take this picture when they were off the field, walking off, walking on. It's not an in-between moment. It's the peak moment of this scene setter. The batter's in the batter's box, everybody is ready, set and ready, and the pitcher is just about to throw the ball or throwing the ball. Like chalking the field. And this is fun for me, right? Because it's grassroots baseball. They don't have any special equipment. They don't have money to chalk the field with a proper, but they make do with a plastic container and put holes in the bottom, and that's how they chalk the field. Well, for me, that makes a fantastic picture. Look at that beautiful light. The edit is, for me, the most important part, and becoming a better photographer is really all about editing. And it's taking big piles and making little piles. And that's how you become a better photographer. You know, we take thousands of pictures, but it takes a lot for a picture to be a great picture. Seldom you make a great picture. So when you set the standards for yourself, you're going to be a better photographer, you're going to make better pictures. And it's really about setting standards and knowing what that peak moment is. When we finish with our shoot, we get down the edit. Don't be afraid to throw those images away. And I do my edit once, and I do it strong, and I move on. I do shoots all the time, every day. I'm going to the next place. I'm not going back and revisiting my images. And I know that's somebody else's style, and that's good. They go back, oh, I found something else that I didn't find before. That's not how sports photography works for me. It's once, it's getting it right and not going back a second time. You're moving on to the next shoot, the next thing. So you have to become a good editor and a strong editor and know what that peak moment is. You can keep the moments around it, get rid of the rest. You don't need those. Move on from it, and then choose your peak moment for what you're looking for.
Yeah!
Well, that's a wrap on this trip for the Dominican Republic, but what a trip it was. And I've been there so many times. And like I said, it was great to see old friends and meet new people, but every time I go back and shoot baseball, there's always something new. You never know what you're going to see at a baseball game. And for me, my Grassroots Women project, you know, it's a whole new Dominican Republic for me that I haven't seen before. Seeing women, Dominican Republic women, play baseball on such a high level was so exciting for me, and I'm excited to go back and capture more. Okay, so that's a wrap on the Dominican Republic. What's next? Where should we go next? Let's go B&H.